right now I'm in the process of restarting my CF Ninja hacks. It's something I did years ago, had a lot of success with it. And a lot of people, I think, really got a lot out of it, learned a lot of things. And so what I decided to do, especially after coming back from Funnel Hacking Live, is to recreate that and to do a whole bunch of new training, especially focusing on a lot of things like animations and what I refer to as engagement devices. And to that end, I decided there was a lot of stuff that I built in 1.0 that I did not build in 2.0, and there's differences in them and how we have to build them. So I thought one of the things I would do is go live and start building out some of the stuff for 2.0, taking the stuff from 1.0 and putting it into 2.0. There will, of course, be a whole bunch of new stuff in the 2.0 training as well. But one of them the other day, my friend Nicole found this one over here on the left-hand side. She found the YouTube video, and she put all the code in the computer, and it wouldn't work. And she said, well, why isn't this working? I said, well, it's because of this and this and this and this and this. And I thought that's what really kind of was the catalyst for, I probably should go in here, look at these things, dust them off, fix them up so that they do work in 2.0, because there are some differences that will, of course, very easily kill the code in here. So as you can see over here on the left-hand side, you just come in, you hover over, and then some text appears. The image in the background goes opaque, and it also turns grayscale. And if you're wondering where these pictures came from, at the time, I was actually helping somebody. I think it was in Catherine Jones' group at the time. They were doing a boudoir photos, and I saw that, and I had these images available, and the actual hack came from a wedding photography site. So think of these as wedding pictures here with text over them is what the original was. I had these images available, so I figured I would just use them. So the last thing I have to do in order to get this set up and get it going is I'm going to come back over here into the opt-in page, and I'll explain to you exactly how all of this works, obviously, as we go forward. And I want to grab this last image here, so I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to copy that. We'll come over here, paste that in there, and do that. And now we're going to save this image as a JPEG, and we're going to save it to my desktop. Let's save that. And now we are ready to go. And I got the 3 images that I just had right there. Good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this. And you see over here, I got it in 3 columns. And you could get all kinds of crazy and do this with Flex and even Grid. If you really wanted to write the code for Grid, you could do it as a table. But for my purposes here, I always do it as simply as I possibly can. And what we needed at the time was just 3 columns in order to do this. Stay away from Flex if you don't need to use it. It's really complicated. And even if you understand the CSS behind it, it's still pretty complicated. So what we're going to do is just do a 3-column row, which you see over here on the right-hand side, I already have started. And so we're going to come in here and we are going to create an element, and we are going to put in an image. And then while we're at it, let's just put in a headline element right below it. Now in 1.0, let's go into this image right here. If you came in here and you went down to the bottom, there was this hashtag down here at the bottom. It says get CSS info. And we would open that up. And here it just says title. And then I said gallery 1. Obviously, the next image was gallery 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we had text 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. What that is, this here is known as a data title. Technically is what this is. It's an attribute, more accurately. And so let me just go into the code and show you where that shows up, because there is a big difference here. This is one of the big differences in 2.0. So here we are in this element right here. Let me just make sure, I'm still live and I'm watching myself. I think I'll probably be the only person watching me, which is fine. So data title equals gallery 4 right here. So when you put this in, it takes the title, it puts the word data dash in front of it, and then it gives you gallery 1. So this here, again, is known as an attribute, or it could also be known as a data attribute, because it has the word data in the very beginning of it. And there are special properties that data attributes can be given. We're not going to talk about that today because we don't need to. But just know there are a lot of different kinds of attributes. So if we look in here, ID right here, ID equals image 90289. Now that is auto created inside of ClickFunnels. It's a different number because I'm not looking at the same element. This is image 4, and I was showing you image 1. So that ID is different, but an ID is also an attribute. Where it says class right here, you got all the listing of all your different classes in there. Class is also an attribute. And the other one you'll see in here quite often, and I'm not seeing it here specifically, is style. Okay, down here we have one style, margin top of 0, and I can't see what the rest of this all says there. Oops, now I lost it. So either way, you see right here is style. Style is also an attribute. So the data title could be an attribute, the ID, the class, the style, and then you can make an attribute basically any word you want to make it, and I'll show you that here as we move forward and we get this set up. So what we want to do though is on these images is we want to give them all an attribute so that we can easily find them. And then what we want to do is, I'll go back over here to 1.0, we want to take this headline and we want to move it up so that it's centered over the middle of the image. Now, there are two things you need to get that to happen. One is JavaScript and the other one is CSS. So let me just show you the JavaScript first. And what I did here is I did it as plain Jane as you possibly could, nothing fancy here at all. And I say data title, gallery 1, append the text. So I'm saying take the image and append to the image this text element. Well, what append means is you want to put it inside of the gallery 1 or the image element. So let me show you what that does, because this page here has already applied that JavaScript. And then I'll show you what happens when we turn off the CSS, and we'll look at a couple other things in here. So we have this image wrapper right here. So most every element inside of ClickFunnels has multiple layers inside of it. Normally there's some sort of a wrapper on the outside. So we have the wrapper right here on the outside, and we have the image on the inside. So the image wrapper and the image itself. Now what we're saying is take this headline element, which should have been sitting outside of here. And in fact, let me just show you that. I will turn off let me just see here, what's the best way to do this. We will save this now, and we will preview it. Okay, so now it's outside of here, so let's inspect this element. We'll come down and see here we have our image wrapper, and then here we have our headline element, and you see they are sibling elements right here. So you have the wrapper and you have the headline elements. See, these are two separate elements here. This one, the headline, is not inside of the wrapper, the image wrapper at this point. Here it is inside of the image wrapper. So when we say we want to append it, we want to make it the last child element inside of the wrapper. So the headline becomes a child element to the wrapper itself, which would then be its parent element right there. So we stick the two of them inside like this. So now let's come back over here, and we're going to open up the image wrapper. And let me make sure I got the CSS turned off over here. Yeah, I did. Okay. I got the CSS turned off, so I got all the code turned off. So right here, we have our headline element, we have our image element, and we can come over and we can click here and we can go over to these three dots. And if I want to, let me see, I'm going to pull it up here, and now I just put the headline element above the image element, okay? That's not where I want it, but I wanted to show that you can move this wherever you want on the screen. Well, now let's take it down, and let's move it here. Let's see if we can do it. This gets a little funky sometimes. Let's see if we can move it down to here. Okay, so now I put it back outside of the image right there. So we got to try to get it to come in here and just drop it right there. Did that work? What happened here now? Let me see here. We got the image. Okay, let me try this. Let me reload the page. So the problem with trying to do something live is it may decide to stop working all of a sudden. So let's try this again. We're going to move this up here. Okay, so now we should be right above the image. So now I said put it inside of the wrapper, but put it above the image itself. And so now it's sitting right there versus if we do the other, we can move it down. Let's see if we can get it to do this. Get it down inside of there. It's not going to let me. Let me reload the page. And then we need to inspect this again. So here, let's try it one more time. So let's move it inside. Oops, right there is where we want it. Okay, so now we put it below, and you're going to say, well, it looks exactly the same on the page, but it is inside of this image wrapper right there. So what I want to do on the one today, on the one I had built before, I had done append on here. What I want to do on this one here is I want to prepend it so that it is above. So let me just go back in here and show you this. So where we have this sitting now, this is where it would be if we were to append it. If we were to prepend it, it would be right here where this blue line is. So it would be above it. And you're going to say, okay, well, what's the difference there? Well, it depends. Then when we push one up over the top of the other, which one is going to be in the front? So if we say here we got margin top of 0 at this point, let's just make that margin, oops, let's go negative margin, not positive margin. And we'll have this thing go up. Okay, you see here, the headline text is over the image itself. Which actually I think is what I do want in the end of this here. But now let's reload the page again, and let's see this here. Did I turn that CSS back on, or the JavaScript, I should say? Okay, nope, I did not. So let's do this. Let's take it up here, drop it there. So now it's above it. And so now let's say we want positive, and if we do positive, it's going to push down everything. So I think we are going to leave it then, now that I start playing around with this some. And, maybe I should have actually, planned this out before I started doing this. But we're going to leave it at where we had it. We're going to append it, which appears to push it up over the top. So we're going to do it like that. So let us do this here. And we got the append, and we got that. So what we want to do now over here on the right-hand side is we have to start building out our attributes. So we're going to click on this. We're going to open it up. We're going to come over here to Advanced. We're going to go to Logic, and then we're going to add a custom attribute. And you're saying to yourself, couldn't I give it an ID? And the answer really is no, because we have to number these things 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And although you could do that with an ID, it would get problematic very, very quickly, so you don't really want to. So, like I said here with attributes, we can name this thing anything we want. We could call this, pencil, and we could say pencil equals true. Oops, or we can spell it right there. Pencil equals true, and we could save this, and then this becomes our attribute right there. But because kind of got used to using data title a lot of the times in 1.0, I still kind of tend to go data title, and then here we're going to say image-1. Now you're going to notice over on the left, I did not use the -1 because over here I just spelled it all out, and I could do this again. I could do it exactly the same, and it'll put all the elements exactly in the same place, but I'd like to do it a little bit fancier this time here. So we're just going to call this one data title image1, and we are going to save that, and then we're going to come over here to our text element, and we need a little bit of breathing room there, so let's put like 20 pixels. Well, actually, I don't need that because I'm going to push it up over the top, so we can take that out. We don't need anything there. And then we are going to go to, again, our advanced, our logic, add the attribute. We're going to say data title equals, and we're going to call this one text1. And we're going to save it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to clone each of these. And we will clone this one, and we will pull one up there. And for this, then we have to go in advanced, logic, and we need to change this one to -2, save that. And then, yes, down here as well, we have to go advanced, logic, and edit, and we're going to go to text of 2, and we're going to click on save. So now we have 2 of them in right here. So now we're going to go in and we're going to start looking at our code. And so I'm going to open up my code editor right here, and I have a little special bookmarklet to do that with. Makes it a lot easier. And so we're going to do our script. And what I like to do is usually put in a whole bunch of carriage returns like this, just so that I can move around on the page a little bit more. I don't like just being jammed in here too much. So, okay, what did I do here? Hopefully I didn't mess this up. And we're going to close out our script. And we'll let me roll up. Yep, okay. So then let me just kind of copy one of these lines over here. Oops, what did I just do? I really messed it up. So let me reload this page before I go and save it. Okay, tracking code. Take that back out. Copy this. Paste that in, and so we had image 1, and we had text of 1, and oops, I got to put in the dash 1, and so now let us just save this. And the reason I'm doing this is we just want to see if this actually is working. Let's get rid of these there. Don't need those here. Okay, so it appears as though nothing happened, but, excuse me, let's see if something did happen in that, did this go inside of it? So we have our headline element right here, and we have our image element, and then we have our, let me see, that says image. So again, this is going to look, let me open this up over here. So over here, and let me reload this page. And so here we have our image wrapper, and then we have our image inside of it. And here we have our image wrapper right there. We have our image inside of it, and now we have our headline inside of that. So we have it inside of here, and I don't think I said this very clearly, but we have to do this in order to be able to push it up over the top. So basically the image and the headline are going to essentially share the same space as you saw over here. They're basically sharing the same space, and then as we hover over, then we get the effect that we want right there. So they're essentially in the same space. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, okay, we're going to take what we hover over. Now that I think about this for a minute, let me think about this, because what is going, okay, so on page load, we have to, okay, so that's what we're going to do is on page load, we are going to, okay, we're going to need a for each. For each of these, we're going to have to do something. And right off the top of my head, I am drawing a blank on this. So let's go over here, JavaScript, and we're going to go for each. Actually, let's do this as jQuery. Let's search it that way, Query. And we got each, but I want for each. We can do each. All right, let's see here. What do we want to do? Li each function index, yeah. So we'll just copy that. So, you know, there's lots of resources you can go to, including now, of course, ChatGPT and everything else. And, well, actually, frankly, ChatGPT is not my favorite. But here, let's copy that. Paste this in right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this, and we're going to put in an asterisk right there, and we are going to take out image-1. Okay, so we're saying here, data title equals image. So every data title that doesn't equal image anymore contains image in it. So asterisk equals is contains, so that for each one of these, we're going to run a function and we're going to have an index in there so we know what the index is. And because indexing in JavaScript or jQuery is zero-based indexing, I think it's both. I usually just write in jQuery. I think it's a lot more easy, so I find it to be a lot more logical. But it's zero-based indexing. So what we got to do here is we got to say, so we're going to let, I'm just going to say index 1 equals index plus 1. Put a semicolon at the end. So now instead of this being 0 the first time we run through here, it's going to be 1 the first time we run through this. So what we're going to do then is we're going to take this line and we're going to move it up, and we're going to say then data title of image equals dash, and where this 1 is, we have to replace that with index 1 as a variable. So we're going to put in a single quote in this case here. We're going to put in this plus sign. We're going to say index 1, and then we're going to put in another plus sign, and we're going to put in a singular quote. So that now should become data title index 1 the first time this thing runs through. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. Oops, let me grab a hold of the quote. We copy that. And I'm doing this right. Index 1, All right, that should work. Chance of this working the first time is about 0 usually. So we're going to see, again, I'm kind of on a tightrope on this one. So let's see. So that should be, yeah. Let's give it a try. So that's the only thing you can do. Flip it on, give it a try, see what happens. And let me see what we got here. Did it work? I don't know. Let's check. So we're going to come in here. We're going to look at our code again. And we got our image, but we got our headline down here. So nope, it did not work. What did I do wrong? Uncaused syntax error. Unexpected token of that somewhere. Let's see, but we can go over here. We can click on this. Let's see if it gives us an idea. So we had that there. Has an unexpected one there. There should be a function. Oh, okay. Got it in the wrong order. There we go. Doesn't help when you're trying to type and talk, and I haven't actually been writing that much code the last couple of weeks, especially being Funnel Hacking Live and stuff. So you get kind of silly stuff like that all the time. So let's go here. So elements. And now let me reload the page just to make sure that this is correct. Okay, so here we got our image, and we got our headline right there, data title of text 1. And then if we come down to this one, we got our image, data title text 2, data title image 2, and data title image 1 up here. Good. All right, so that works. So it is in the place where it's supposed to be. So now let us go in here and let's just finish out putting all of our images in. I wanted to make sure that worked before I got too far along. Now, the one over on the left-hand side, I put some different margins at the top and stuff. I'm not going to bother with that right now. This one. Oops. Right there. Okay. So now we got all of our pictures in there, and they should be looking fine. Let's see how we're doing. Okay. So what did I do here? I guess I moved that one up in the middle a little bit. Let's just do that, just to even things out. Guess everything came in with 15 pixels to begin with. So, whatever, close enough. Because you're not going to see the text on here once we move it. Anyway, so now let's go over here and look at the original, which was right here. So we got that text turned back on there. Let's go to the CSS. Turn the CSS back on. And so we're going to say here, image text. So the text is below it here. We want to absolute position that 50% top, 50% left, and then we're going to do a transform translate. So let's take a look at this in live mode over here. And we're going to come down to this particular element. And we're going to go to the headline part of it right there. And the best thing to do is just come in here to the CSS, and we're going to just start playing around with this thing. So we're going to say here now, position of absolute. Now, what does position of absolute do? It is going to absolutely position us. So we're right here in this element right here. Is going to absolutely position it within its parent element. Okay, so although you don't see the HTML code move here, what it did is it says, okay, we're going to put this thing inside of the element that it is currently inside of. Excuse me, if you do position fixed, it'll move it somewhere on the screen. If you do position relative, it will position it relative to where it began. But here we're saying we want this thing positioned absolutely inside of its parent element, okay? So we've only done one part of it. As you can see, we got 5 lines over here. So we're going to then next say we want to absolutely position this 50% of the way down from the top of its parent element. So we're going to say top of 50%, and you see now it moved somewhere. In fact, it moved down here. Please don't tell me I have this in the wrong place. It doesn't make any sense that it just moved down there. Okay. Good. I probably should have tested this ahead of time. Huh, that's interesting. All right, well then let's go here. Left then 50%. Okay, so if you see it right here, it's right by this gal's face right here. So the center of this is right here. So the left says move over from the left edge, so the left side of the element, move that over from the left edge 50%, and move it down 50%. So that's why I don't understand why it's moved all the way down here like this. But let's keep going, and I'm going to put in the transform translate, because the transform translate, what it'll do is it'll now move it back 50% of the size of the image itself. So if here is the center, it's going to move it back this way 50% and up 50% based upon the size of the actual element. So we're going to do transform, and we're going to do translate. And with the old version over here, I had translate 3D. I don't need that. All this needs to be over here. Oops, transform translate. And we're going to say minus 50%. And then minus 50, oops, don't want that, 50%. And now it moved it back over here, but this still doesn't answer the question as to why it is way down here where it is. So let's go back over here. Let me go here. Let's save this first. And then fun. So let me see, let me show you what I found out here. So we got our image gallery that we had been working on, and here's where the problem came in. In 1.0, all the elements on a page, excuse me, have the CSS property of position relative. Now that's not actually the CSS default property. Default would be position of static. And if I don't get my voice straightened out here, I'm not going to be able to continue again anyway. So it's position of static. And so I completely forgot that that's how 1.0 is different than 2.0. And so what I did is I came in here then, and I said here, position, so I put in here position of relative, and then I started working. See here, over here you see what it is position of static is what it was. So you have to make the parent element, you have to give it the CSS property of position of relative. So when I turn that on, you're going to see here the text popped up right into the middle. So now it is working properly. So what we have to do now is we have to come in here and with all of these here, the data title. So we're just going to copy this right there. We're going to go like that. We're going to go into our CSS, and we're going to put that in for all of our CSS. So we're going to open this up. And again, I'm going to put in a whole bunch of carriage returns right here. And then we'll come down a couple lines and we will plunk this in. And when we do this, we want to put square brackets around any attributes that we are putting in here. And then we also want to say contain. So we're going to contain, and we're just going to cut this back here just to image. So data title contains image. Then we're going to put in our curly brackets like that. And we're going to say we want position of relative. And now they should all get that position of relative. So let's go turn this on. And now if we come into each one of these wrappers right here, we've got our wrapper, we got our position of relative. Now when we apply the other code to it, we will get it to go where we want it to go. And in fact, let's do it on this element right here. You're going to be able to see it better on this gal right there. So we're going to say now position of absolute, and we're going to say top of 50% and left of 50%. And as you see here now, let's put our, see the blue, look at the blue box up here. If you look at the blue box, the upper left-hand corner will be right in the middle of the image itself. And in fact, I see here I have some, yeah, I got padding at the top. Yeah, the padding shouldn't be a problem. Might be. So that's one thing you have to look at is if it doesn't line up quite right, it's off by a little bit, look at margins, look at padding, look at stuff like that on there, see if there is an issue. And then we are also going to do our transform, translate, and we're going to say minus 50% and minus 50% right there. And then it will absolutely position it in the middle. And then we'll have the same effect that we have over here, where it is all positioned in the middle. But in this case here, what we want to do then is we want to give it a z-index of -9 because we want to push it behind the image itself. So we're going to say z-index of -9. There's no units on that at all. And so we're going to do this. And so now I'm just going to copy all of this right here. And we're going to put it then into this, into the data title of the text element. So let's just come over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this in first. And then I'm just going to grab a hold of this line, copy that, paste it in there. And we're going to say text, and we will do all this here, and we will put that back, and then do that. So now, if we save this, what should happen is we're not going to see any of the text anymore because now it is hiding right behind there. You can see the blue box is representing where it is hiding. So now we can come back over here after like an hour later. We can come back over here. So we already took care of this bit right there. So now we're going to say when we hover over the image, we want it to do a filter of a grayscale of 1, so it's going to go to gray, and then also it's going to get an opacity of 0.03. So I'm just going to copy this out of here. We should be able to put it in here straight away without any issues, except the one thing we have to do is change out the word gallery with the word image. There. That right there. And let's see if this baby works. See here, that, and now when we hover over, there our text is right centered in the middle. Now let's take a look at what else can we do here, because 2.0 has some stuff that 1.0 did not have. So instead of putting in fact, what I need to do is come in here and we need to turn off that CSS, or we're not going to be able to see what we're looking for on the screen. So we'll just turn it off for now. Now we got our text element right here. But now let's say we wanted to put in more text in here. Well, we can come down here and we can, let's just say we're going to copy this, and then we'll hit return, and we'll put in a couple of times. Oops. Here. So we can do something like this. Put in a whole bunch of text. And you also notice here when it got in there that what it did is it shrinks it down because there is some limitations. So let's take a look at what we have there for that. So we got the headline here, we have the image, and so the question is why is it making it so small? Let's go back down here again and look at this headline. Got 10 on the padding. Margin, it doesn't have any margin necessarily on it. So let's see what happens here if we say change the width 100%. Hover over it. Okay, so that's good. We got 100% width. And then let's do height of 100%. Okay, now jammed it up to the top, which is not necessarily what we wanted, but it may be, depending on, again, how much text and whatnot you're going to put in here. Because what I'm going to show you is that we should be able to do this and be able to put in a whole bunch of text and even a button or something inside of here. So let's just do this, and we will save it. But before I save it, what I want to do, come in here, and we're going to say here, height of 100, I'm sorry, width of 100%. Semicolon. We're going to save that, but we're not going to turn, let's turn the CSS. Let's just see what it looks like. Again. Okay, so now we got the width, and it'll take it up. But see, again here, we told it to center it at this point here. If you don't want it centered, you would not do the top of 50%. Because we can say here, we can just do top of 0. So let's just say here, do top of 0 instead, and we can save that. Come over here, and then it'll all be squished up at the top. And let me see here. Did I even go live? Let's see if I'm even live. Hopefully this is being recorded, if nothing else. Yeah, there we go. Okay. At least it did that. As a moderator, you can, okay. So we come in here. Oops, so now we went up too far. Oh, and that's because we did the transform translate, and we moved it up. So we also then have to change that. And so to do top, so the first number here is left and right. That's your y-axis. That's left and right. That's also your width. So here we would do 0 here as well, or you could just do a translate of. And at this point here, we may not even need the translate function at all anymore, because we did 100% on the width as well. Let's just see where we end up here. Okay, so there we are. We're all within the frame. So now let's say we wanted to add a button into this. So let's come over here and let me see. I got to go to the live page, but I got to kill the CSS again. That's one of the problems here is when you're doing this and hiding stuff using the CSS, you can't see it on the page. That is not what I wanted to do. So we will kill that. We got this down here. So now let's just say, let's go with this one over here. So let's say we want to put other elements in there. So we can't use the headline element anymore. So we're going to have to use the sections as an element. So let's come over here. We're going to do a 1 column row. And so what we're going to create then is it creates a section, a row, and then we can start putting elements inside of it. So let's kill this here. And we probably don't want all this padding around here. So in the row itself, let's get rid of at least the side padding. And in the column, we'll get rid of the side padding or margin in there. Take that out as well. And so now we should be more or less out to the edge. So now let's just put some elements in and see what we come up with. So we're going to put in a headline element. We're going to put in a subheadline element. And then we're going to put a button at the bottom. Subheadline element really looks bad, so let's take that back out. Let's say, yeah, let's just put in a button, so something pops up and says, hey, let's go somewhere. Let's change that. That thing is hideous. Let's see here, background color. Let's just make it black, and we'll get rid of some of the shadow on here, icons, whatever. We don't need that to be nearly that big, so we will bounce that down some. Okay, so now we're going to have the entirety of this in here. And let's see here even. Okay, so we have to come here. I was going to say, let's go to the level of the row, but I got no padding on it. And let's give that, let's just put a border around it so we can see it when it comes in here. And because it's going to go over black, let's make that white. So let's just try this. Oh, the one thing I forgot is we have to give this the attribute. So I have to come in here, and we're going to have to say now, data title of text dash 2 we should be on. So we will save that. Save. Go here and let's see if we got this to work right. All right, sitting down here. Why? Because I have the CSS turned off. So now we come back in, turn the CSS back on, and we will save that. Go. Okay. So there you go. Okay. Do we want this to come down to the bottom? Yeah. Okay. Is this an instance where you might want to use flex in this case here and then push it all the way down to the bottom? That may be. Let me see. I mean, we could just come in here and instead of doing the flex, we could just come into, let me see, what's a good way to find this? Let's go to our, what do they call this here? The layout. That's what it's called. We're going to come to the layout. We got a row. We're going to come down inside of here. Let me see here. Section. So we got a section. And inside of there is a row, column, headline. And we can do it here at the top of the row. Let's do this. Let's just make this like, let's do 100 pixels and see what it looks like. But again, I think flex would be the best here because you can say flex end and push it down to the bottom. Even 100 pixels didn't get us down far enough, but the image size is not going to necessarily change. The size of this box is not going to change. So you can kind of put this anywhere you want. We could also go back into the CSS, and because we took that down, oh, I know what we could do. Let's do this instead. Because we have here top of 0, what we're going to do here instead is we're going to say bottom of 0. Okay, that will take the entirety of the element and put it at the bottom. So it'll be 0 pixels up from the bottom. 0 from the top obviously means our top 0 means coming up 0. So the element itself, so what you're seeing here is, let's open up the code and we'll go click here, and so here's that section element. So you see it's all the way down to the bottom. It's up from the bottom some because of the 20 pixels of padding on the bottom of the section. And then we have also padding at the bottom of the row. I don't think there's any in the container, but we do have it here at the bottom of the row. So we got 20 pixels each on that. So if you want it tighter to the bottom, we can take that out. But frankly, I think that looks pretty good just like that. And then, of course, you can do all kinds of other crazy stuff. Like I did put a border around that thing, didn't I? Maybe it didn't catch. But I was going to say, you can do all kinds of other stuff. You can put shadows around there. Of course, when you hover over this, you can have the image in the background animate. And what you're going to see in later videos that I'm going to shoot is when you hover over an image, actually have the image flip over. And all kinds of cool stuff. I have another hack where when you hover over it, instead of the text just appearing, what it does is the text will like appear and then it'll like slide down within the image itself. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do to really jazz these things up and get your, I mean, the whole idea is, if you're a funnel builder, part of it, the whole idea is A, to impress your customers, B, your customers are going to ask for this stuff, so you might as well give it to them. And C, and most importantly, is keep people on the site longer. I refer to them as engagement devices. Keeps people on the site longer, gives them a much better ability, much greater chance that they're actually going to be able to see your marketing message and be able to take you up on your offer. So that is it. I don't think there's really anything else I wanted to show you here. We got a lot of cool different ways that we can make this work out. So if you got any questions, as always, just let me know.